Well, hello, everybody. Hi, Chad Ashley. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Oh, fantastic. Hello there, YouTube. Hello, Twitch. Hello, Facebook. Thank you guys for joining us for another live show. Hope you're doing well. As always, I want to appreciate you guys for showing up here live. And we want to hear where you guys are from. This is my favorite part to kind of start the show off. Where in the heck is everybody from? And I wanted to try something. We got this new chat overlay. Check this out. And I think if I do it right, people will be able to say where they're from and it'll pop up right in here direct. Oh my goodness. Let us know where you're from, everybody. We love seeing this. Hey, Twitch, we got some Twitch members here joining up. Germany, Florida. Thank you guys so much for joining. Today, we will be talking about lighting tips. We're going to be talking about rendering and making beautiful lighting in Cinema 4D. A little bit later, we'll be jumping into Cinema 4D. I know Chad's got a really cool scene file to show you guys. Hey, look at all this stuff. Chicago, France, Germany, Michigan. What's up,
Michigan?
Dan?
Michigan's here.
What's up, Dan? Cheers from Michigan as well. Love it. Sweden, Ukraine, Switzerland. Thank you guys so much for joining. So stay tuned. We're going to be jumping into Cinema 4D, and we'll also be answering your lighting questions. So if you guys have lighting questions, you've had thoughts on how to get a particular look in when rendering, or just lighting questions in general. As you guys know, lighting is such a hugely important part of rendering. I mean, literally nothing shows up if you don't have lights.
It's a little dark if you don't.
Hey, Mike. Good to see you, buddy. Mike's near my part of town.
Yeah,
as well.
I saw Mike go by. I was like, oh yeah, I know that dude.
Good to see you, man. That's great. Awesome. And do us a favor, guys, especially those of you on YouTube. Wake up the YouTube robots. Help us wake up the YouTube robots by hitting the thumbs up button. It lets YouTube know that we're live, and it recommends our video to other people who subscribe to the channel. And also, if you're not subscribed, you want to get notifications for this stuff. That's what notifications and the bells and the subscribing is all about. That's why people say that. So if you want to see more of these live shows or get reminders, do the notification thing. Please
Milwaukee.
Say nice. Milwaukee's here. Oh, I can't click in the thing. I got to click down here. Ridvin. I'm gonna go with Ridvin. Is asking to say my catchphrase. See, I minted that catchphrase in NFT now, and somebody else actually owns it, which means I can't say it. So it's for an undisclosed amount. Somebody grabbed that, but yeah.
Smart move.
It was years ago, before the whole NFT thing took off.
Yeah, you were ahead of the curve on that.
Look, it's why I can't say it anymore. It's not mine. Hope you guys are well. Hope you guys are what do they say? Printing tendies. I hope you're printing tendies and NFTing and diamond handing as well. All of you guys. Trying to stay cool, guys.
You're doing a great job, buddy.
Thanks. Hungary and Slovakia. That's amazing.
That's wild.
That is so cool.
From Orlando to Slovakia, like that's crazy.
Wow, Milwaukee, what's up? Cheers to you. Thank you guys so much for joining today. Please continue. Let us know where you're from. We'd love seeing that stuff. Like I said, when we get rolling here, we're going to be answering your questions. So if you have a question, get it ready. And we'll have you type like question : and then ask a question, or like a Q : and then that way we'll know which ones are questions. We'll try to answer as many as we can. And then after we do a few of those, we're going to jump into Cinema 4D, and then show you guys some lighting tips right from within Cinema 4D. So get ready for that. Thank you guys. Awesome. Look at that. Brooklyn, Poland. This is cool.
Yeah,
all right.
I'd love to really know, like, what's the thing that you guys get hung up on in lighting? Like, what is it that trips you up? Like, that to me would be great.
Yeah, that's actually a good question. If you guys want to say that in chat, I'm going to leave the chat rolling just for now. Let us know where you guys get hung up on lighting. I know that one of my biggest mistakes, I'll share one of mine first. Maybe it'll kind of spur some conversation. I know I've told the story many times of learning how to translate real world lighting, studio lighting, which I was familiar with photography, and bring that into Cinema 4D, which obviously started like Hit Pro and all this other stuff. But even more than that, I think it was really an unlock to me early on, understanding that a bunch of point lights, no matter how many point lights you add to your scene, it will never look good, basically. I know with all the third-party rendering that this is kind of almost a moot point at this point. But for anybody getting started with learning lighting, understanding the power of area lights and the sizes of your light was a really big unlock for me, not only in 3D, but in the real world. Going from the flash on my camera to a flash that was off of my camera in another direction, to a softbox, to a ring light that I used to carry around, literally around my camera. Chad remembers those days.
Oh yeah.
A little 4-inch, 5-inch ring light that I could move and light with. So understanding that the shapes of lights and not just a big square or even a little circle was enough to really make beautiful lighting was a really big unlock for me. Trey says size of lights. Size is huge. How many times have we talked about scale now on these live shows, Chad?
A few times. Yeah, definitely a few times for sure.
So one more little housekeeping note before we get started here, answering some questions. We've been doing these live shows, I think every other week now for a few weeks. And, our goal with these is to help you guys understand some of the stuff that isn't really talked enough about in the 3D world. So there's obviously a ton of tutorials. We have a ton of them too about the tools, about Cinema 4D, and about how to click the right buttons to make all this stuff on the screen and make a bunch of things go dynamic and explode and all that stuff. But the things that really made my work better, and many other artists out there are going through the same thing, the thing that really helped me make better renders is learning the fundamentals of lighting and materials and cameras and design and composition and lenses and all the things we're trying to talk about in these live shows. So stay tuned for more of these live shows. We're here to help the artist make more beautiful stuff. And lighting was always one of the most important things to me, and it was a struggle early on. And so that's why we're here to try to answer some of your questions about this stuff and get it going. Mike adds reassigning lights to specific objects and hiding them for other objects. Huge in my rendering. Not sure how to do it in Cinema 4D. Oh, we could help you with that, Mike. We could help you with that. Now, can you do that in all the renderers, Chad? What Mike's talking about is the ability to take a light and say, hey, softbox, hey, light, only light specific objects in the scene. In other words, instead of in the real world, where you'd have to flag off a light or try to block it in some way or try to position it in a way to only light certain things. In 3D, we have more control. And in many renderers, you have the ability to say, hey, don't include this light when you're calculating your brightness. Do all renderers support that at this point, Chad, or is it dependent on some of the third-party renderers?
I mean, yeah, that's called light linking and that's a huge part of lighting 3D is light linking. And the fact that we can do it so mostly painlessly, is great. So we don't have to use flags, although we do sometimes. But yeah, it's definitely a huge part of it. And to answer your question, yes, but some of them do it better than others. I would say that Octane's workflow is actually a little bit janky compared to Redshift and Arnold. So I'm hoping like that becomes easier. In fact, I think they only support up to 8 different links, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, it's a little bit weird in Octane, but in Redshift and Arnold, it works just like regular cinema.
Good to know. Good to know. I know Octane was a little different than the other ones for a while, but it seems like that's all possible now.
Yeah, they have it now. It's just not quite as seamless, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Yeah, that's great. People are asking, let me see if I can pull this one up here. Crap, I invested in Octane. That's okay. Octane's great. We like Octane. I'm using it now. How to get a straight, here's a question. So let's go ahead and start throwing up some questions here. I see the cues. Thank you guys for doing that. We're just going to get right to answering some questions. And like I said, we're going to jump into cinema in a little bit as well. So Box of Chocolates says, how to get a straight on camera flash. That's a really easy one. Take a light, parent it to your camera, Make sure it's aiming at your kind of out with the lens, and then just parent it right to your camera. Just make it a child of your camera. Now, no matter where your camera goes, there will always be a big old light right on it. In fact, Cinema 4D by default has a default light that you can go in and turn off. At many of our older tutorials, when it didn't turn off automatically, you'd have to go turn off the default light. Many of you might remember that. That was basically an on-camera flash look that made sure whatever you're aiming your camera at was lit. Now, it's not a very flattering look. It makes things very flat. It makes things look like they're, lit with a flash on a camera. In fact, even just bringing that light up and to the right, just a little bit, the same that it would be on like a point and shoot camera, like up and to the left or up and to the right, a little, will give you a little bit of sense of shadow in the background that like a Polaroid flash would give. That alone will make it more dynamic than just literally right on the lens, which is never a light source you'll ever see. You could never in real life have a light source basically right where the lens is, because your head's there, the camera's there. So try to move it a little bit, but that will give you that really flat, flashy light.
Yeah, I would also use probably a spotlight or an IES light, so that you get a little bit more control over the throw of the light. And then make sure that you're using a pretty intense inverse fall off from the source of the light, so that it falls off to shadow very quickly, the way that a real flash does. Because if you're on a flash and you notice like somebody's 10 feet away, then they don't really get the light as much. So just try to use like a nice steep fall off on that light.
Yeah, that's a good point. The fall off will actually give it that Polaroid look where everything up front is almost blown out. Part of that, and I keep going to Polaroid because I studied how to make Polaroids for a long time, but that is a part of that look to me, is very, very flat light with a lot of fall off, because film is also very, it's very contrasty. So you get these really dynamic shifts from what is being lit really close to the background. So that fall off is everything. Dial that fall off to make sure it's not too bright.
Yeah, don't use an area light for that, because the shadows are going to be way too soft, because the source of a flash is like super tiny. So you want to make sure that you're using like a spot or something like that.
Travis has a good question here. Says, what makes good lighting versus bad flat? It's easy to see, but hard to dial in. Travis, I think you're onto something already with this flat lighting. In fact, we just said it. It's very tricky to get really beautiful lighting with a light that is flat and that is from the front. It is a very specific look. Again, Polaroid has that look. Other flash photography, some even studio, like Sears photography kind of thing, has a very frontly flat look for a reason. But unless you're going for that look in particular, what you want to make sure is that you have lights off to the side and off to the back. Just really easy first thing to do is always experiment with moving your light to the side and to the back of objects before you commit to something too bright in the front. And that will keep you from having flat or overly bad lighting. In fact, I think we talked a lot about this maybe 2 live shows ago. And the thumbnail of it is a bunch of area light maps of like soft boxes and stuff. If you want to go back and revisit that one, we actually dive in a little bit more on some of the ways that we set up light like that. We talk about it through HDRIs and where to set up light, but we talk a lot about that one. But not having a front light is really one of the best things you could do. Chad, you have a tip for Travis?
Yeah. So the way that we interpret scale as humans is through light and shadow. So we can tell how big things are. We talked a bit about this in the last lighting show that we did, but really lighting is just about informing people what the shape is of what you're lighting through shadow. So it's not super interesting. Like Nick was saying, if you lit something like straight on, it's not very interesting unless you're doing maybe like cosmetic work or beauty work where that sort of lighting is preferred. But it's usually more interesting to give some shadows, give some definition of what you're looking at, rake the light across the side, try it backlit, and just look at it. And if it's interesting to you, it's going to be most likely to be interesting to the viewer.
Awesome, man. We got a lot of good questions here. We're going to try to get to as many of these as we can. Oh goodness, this one's already from 5 minutes ago. We got to go. Let's go. Let's go with best. Let's try this one. Andrew, we'll try to answer these pretty quickly, guys, so we can try to get to as many as we can. Thank you, by the way, for bringing all these awesome questions. Best volumetric lighting options in Octane. I'm actually interested in this one. How do you set that up in Octane, Chad?
I haven't done it in a long time. I just recently kind of got back into Octane. I took a break from it for a long time, and I just kind of came back to it in 2020.2, I believe. But we have a couple different tutorials, I think, on our YouTube that talk about this. And then, of course, we've got the amazing course by David Ariev that's in Plus right now. But if I remember correctly, you're setting up a atmospheric object, I believe, and then making sure the light is in there. And I might be butchering that, so if somebody's in the comments that knows exactly it, feel free to hit that answer. But yeah, I haven't. I'm just now kind of getting my feet back into Octane. But yeah, it's a good question. We have plenty of stuff on Plus about that. I know that for sure.
Yeah, that's true. I know David. So if you're familiar with David Ariev, he's a great Octane artist. We had him do a kind of a getting started with Octane series in Greyscalegorilla Plus. I know many of you here are Plus members, so you guys have access to that. Go check it out. Even if you're not brand new to Octane, watch some of the end of that first video, because he dives into some of the lighting settings. And I know he talks specifically about foggy lighting and volumetric and all that kind of stuff. So make sure you check that one out. All right, let's see here. Thank you guys, by the way. Like I said, a lot of you guys out there are from Plus. We sent this email out this morning. Make sure you guys are here to ask questions. We're going to answer questions from anybody, but we also know many of you are here from Plus and asking specific questions. So like I said, thank you guys, and we're going to get to as many as we can. All right, we got an Octane X question. Let's take a 1 millisecond talk about Octane X, because with all of these new Macs coming out, I'm interested to see how these new chips work with Octane X. I don't even know if the M1 stuff's compatible. So, Nick, this is not really an answer other than I'm interested too in figuring this out. And as we learn more about Octane X compatibility and what machines it's running on, and also the speed, we're going to try to get the word out to you guys. So that's all I had to say about that one. Anything else for Octane X, Chad?
I mean, I'm only an Apple user in, what would you call it, like a casual Apple user. Recently got back into the iPhone, and I got an iPad Pro, and I even got myself an Apple Watch. But yeah, I mean, I look at what they're doing in the Apple Silicon, and I'm excited to see where it goes. I know that I think Jules from Atoy posted that it was like a #1 app or something, like Octane X, like somehow, like they're featuring it somehow on the Apple site, which I think was really cool. But if you're out there, if you're listening and you are using Octane X on a Mac, let us know, because I'm curious what that's like too. And like, if you can compare it to a PC, like what's that like? I'd be interested to know.
Awesome. Let's see here. We got, let's go.
Let me answer there's a question. I think I want to make sure that we don't go down this rabbit hole of Octane versus Redshift versus, whatever, because they're all very, very similar and they all do great stuff. So I don't think, we probably aren't going to get into the this over that, or this is better than this in that way, because at the end of the day, we're all just like here trying to make the best images we can. And obviously these are like really good renders. Each one of them has their strengths. So yeah, I don't worry if we start talking about Octane. It doesn't mean that Arnold isn't good, or it doesn't mean Redshift isn't good. Don't take it the wrong way. Like, it's all lighting. They all kind of do similar stuff. Just wanted to get that out there.
Agreed. Let me address this question real quick, because this is something not lighting related, but is also something that's happening here at Greyscalegorilla. I just wanted to clear up something. Andrew's asking, why don't you support perpetual user licenses and updates, if they're practically the same plugin as Greyscalegorilla Plus. So what Andrew's talking about, thank you for the question, by the way. What Andrew's talking about is we just put out an announcement last week, actually, on our website about perpetual licensing and how we've stopped selling single licenses for any of our plugins or material collections or anything else. So starting, I think it was Monday, Plus is the only way to join Greyscalegorilla and get everything we have. So now that everything is inside of Plus, all the HDRIs, all of our plugins, all the training, Plus is the only way to really come join Greyscalegorilla. So many perpetual user, perpetual plugin users are asking, hey, if you're going to keep everything updated for Plus, why not extend that to all perpetual license holders? And that way it's all the same, right? It's all the same code, guys. Why don't you just make it really easy? And the answer is it's not. So we actually forked our code a few years ago now, and specifically built Plus versions of our plugins that are optimized, always up to date, working with the latest renderers, working with the latest chips. Things like M1 compatibility are already all set to go for Plus members. And it actually, not to get too behind the scenes, is a huge amount of work to keep 2 code bases running. So I won't go too in the weeds with this, but for many years, we've actually kept perpetual running exactly because we wanted both to run. And we ran 2 completely separate code bases to make sure that perpetual users could stay up to date. Well, now that everything is inside of Plus, and now that we wanted to make much cleaner versions of our plugins that are always up to date, and really let us focus our time on frankly, what is most of our customers, we needed to make a decision to make sure that our perpetual customers are up to date all the way through whatever the next version of Cinema 4D is. And then after that, Plus will be the only way to stay up to date with new versions of Cinema. So happy to answer any other questions around that, but I just wanted to clarify for you guys, just one last thing about this, if you are using our plugins and you're using them on an older version of Cinema 4D, or even a current version, if you're using it on 23 and you bought a perpetual license, that plugin will work on 23 for a long time. The only time you're going to want to make sure you upgrade to Plus is if you want everything, of course. You want everything we have. Plus is the way to get it. But also, if you upgrade your version of Cinema 4D to and want to stay up to date with the latest versions of Cinema 4D, then you're going to want to make sure you have a Plus license. So hopefully I answered some of those questions there. And if there's any other questions, please feel free to hit up support and ask any questions you got there. So if you haven't read that article as well, we have it on our blog, and we always want to make sure you guys are taken care of. So make sure you go read that and understand where we're headed with this. We wanted to make it easy for you guys to just get everything and stay up to date with the latest version. Just like Chad said, there's new renders coming out all the time, and we want to make sure our plugins are like up to date and ready to rock for everybody. Okay, so let's get back to some lighting questions. Let's see here. I see that one. I'm going to try to look for this one from, let's see here. Shoot on the dark side for more contrast. I agree. Steven, let's go with this one. Catch volumetric light, PNG alpha. Actually, I don't know that one. Do you know that one?
I believe it just happens naturally. I don't think there's anything special you need to do, at least in Redshift and Arnold.
Let's see here. Let's try is this the one? Trey?
No, it was by Terry Rafala, I think. I can just say it too. That's fine. I've got it copied here.
Yeah, let's jump to that one. Let me just mention Trey's thing here. Currently have an NVIDIA GTX 970. What's the recommended GPU to go with that doesn't break the bank? So there are so many different GPU options. I feel like this might not be the best place to ask those questions. There are so many great forums happening out there and Slack channels and people talking about hardware. And actually, if you're in our GSG Connect Slack channel, there's a specific channel just for hardware, and they talk software a little bit too, but they really talk about these things. And also figure out what graphics cards are even available right now. So if you're interested in that stuff, come join the GSG Connect. It's in your account. Just click the join Slack button and you're in. By the way, many of you clicked the join Slack button the last week, and there was an issue like on the website, something was happening, and you guys let us know. It is all fixed and ready to go, so you can get back there. Chad, why don't you read this question, and I'll try to find it, put it up on the screen. But why don't you
I copied it.
Do it there?
So Terry Rafala, I believe, says, Chad, I don't know if my question is relevant. Why Octane render look like miniature sometimes? And that is actually a really great question, because I see it too. And it's not just, I don't think it's necessarily fair to just like say it's like Octane's problem. It's not really Octane's problem. And it all comes down to what we talked about last week in cameras. If you don't understand aperture size and you don't understand scene scale, it's really easy to fall into the trappings of having like really crazy depth of field on a shot that it feels unnatural. And why it feels miniature is because that's what happens when you're shooting a macro shot of something. If you have a macro lens and you're, pointing it at a little figure on your desk and you take your shot, it's like this really shallow depth of field, right? So your brain knows what miniature photography looks like because you've seen it your whole life. So when you see a render of something that has very unnatural depth of field, it can feel miniature. And that's because the artist is probably using too much depth of field. But anyway. Quick answer.
That's a good point. And if you want to dive deeper into lenses, depth of field, and why all this stuff matters, I'll refer you to it's 2 weeks ago's live show where we just talked about exactly these types of things: how to pick the right lens, how to pick the right camera, and why that matters so much. And you're actually asking the perfect question on why that matters so much. I'm guilty of this. I love depth of field. It used to cost thousands of dollars to get a lens to do this stuff. And as soon as I could do it in Octane or Redshift, I cranked up the depth of field as high as I could because it looks so damn cool. But that's the downside of having a control that isn't built in the physical world where you can fake it. If you push it too far, it looks fake or it looks the wrong scale. And in fact, what I'd recommend you do is go check out the coffee bean scene from last live show we did, the camera one. And Chad shows you like how he chooses the right lens for the right scale of scene. And instantly, as soon as he clicks the right lens type, I think he picked like a f10 or an f8 lens, it all snaps into focus in a good way and has less depth of field. And it looks more realistic because it fits the scale of the scene. So I'd recommend you go check that out too.
Yeah, a few people are talking in the chat about tilt shift, and tilt shift is a look, like that's a look that you can achieve in 3D. But I think if you don't use it carefully in 3D, it just looks like you have incorrect depth of field going on, like incorrect aperture size happening. But yeah, I mean, you can definitely do a tilt shift look. I think tilt shift was like super popular in the 90s in like music videos and stuff. So if you don't know what that is, go ahead and Google it. It's a cool effect.
Jeremy has a question. He says, do you have any standards or rules for lighting that you follow 99% of the time? If so, what's the good reason you would break from your conventional strategies? Chad, what's your standards of lighting? What do you almost always do in every scene?
I try to light with as few lights as humanly possible. That's my number one rule. And then my second one is I set my camera up. I set my shot up, I should say, before I put any lights in. I set up the shot that I want and the framing and the lens, all that stuff. I set it all up the way I want. And then I start to craft the lighting after that. Because if you start to craft lighting and you're not really sure where the camera's going to be, you're going to be lost. You're not lighting for the shot, and you got to light for the shot. So set up the shot, pick your lens. If it's moving, figure out where that's going to be and what your end frame looks like, what your start frame looks like. Where are you going to need to worry about, any issues that might come up, and then start to light your scene and just do it one light at a time and build and build and build. And then just don't forget that you can just like take away. And I mean, honestly, for me, like 9 times out of 10, I set my shot pick my lens. I determine, okay, is this like natural lighting, or is this going to be like helped with studio lighting, or is it completely studio lit? Or does it need to feel natural, or whatever those questions are? And then I choose a strategy based on that. Obviously, if it's natural lit, I'm probably going to go with an HDRI, maybe with a couple of area lights to fill stuff in. And if it's like full studio, I still have an HDRI just kind of as fill, kind of like barely there. And then I'm just like crafting it with area lights. And sometimes spotlights, actually, if I'm using gobos or stuff like that. But yeah, that's kind of a lot of a lot of strategies.
That's a good point. It's something to realize is that you picking that camera angle first, like you mentioned, is so important, because it might look like crap from a different angle.
Oh yeah,
but that's okay. You're not seeing it from that angle, and a lot of the studio and movie magic of making something look like that is really making these sides that people don't see ugly.
Yeah, you can't light for every angle. It's just not possible.
Yeah. It's important to realize that exactly what Chad said, finding your angle first. And in fact, you'll find so many cheats when it comes to commercial work. This is why separating out your scenes, this is slightly related to lighting, but separating out your scenes as an animator is so important, because if you do a close-up, I think we're talking about a cool car render in a bit, so I'll use that analogy. If you're doing a close-up of the tire and then a close-up of the front grille, and then you do a wide shot of the whole car, the lighting setups for all three of those could be totally drastically different.
Completely different scenes, completely different light.
And it's important to understand. It's important to understand that that's how it is. Obviously, in the real world, when they try to just make the badge of the car gleam in a perfect way, that's a completely different lighting setup than when they do the wide shot, than when they do the interior, for example. So if you start thinking in that way, it's going to look more natural, and it's also going to allow you to light for the camera and not light for the model, if that makes sense.
Always light for the camera, and that's something that I think isn't like talked about enough. Like if let's say you're doing like a multi-shot sequence, don't expect that your lighting setup for the first shot is just going to automatically work for the second and third shot. You might need to completely relight, and you might have like a few of the same key, but might need to move it a little bit. So I think that you have to like approach every shot uniquely, unless the camera angle is like super similar. It's just like a punch in or something. But yeah, you have to light for every shot, and I think you'll have better results.
Matt Nowak, good to see you, buddy. Say Creamy Orange is spitting that knowledge. Matt, I hope you're well, man. It's been a while. Good to see you. Creamy Orange, got a throwback, baby. All right, let's get through some more questions here. Short depth of field. We got tilt shift. I'm scrolling way back. Let's get into the future here. Let's see here. Illuminate a scene when you're showing particles or textures. This might be interesting. Camilo is asking, what is the best way to illuminate a scene where you're showing particles or textures? Man, those are like two kind of different things, but let's talk about particles. What is the best way to light for particles?
I mean, that could mean so many things. Like I would need more information. Like, are we talking about like particle, like bugs? Are we talking about like abstract shapes? Like, I mean, I never approach anything like, oh, this is how I light a particle. Like, I always kind of approach it like, what am I making? What's the response I'm trying to get? Where am I trying to lead the viewer's eye? How can I approach this to give it visual interest? Is it moody? Is it bright? Is it fun? Is it, I just try to like figure out what the mood is that I want to achieve. And then I use lighting to help me kind of get there. But it's funny, like, I wouldn't necessarily, don't think of it like I'm doing some category of 3D. Is there a strategy for lighting for that? Not really.
Yeah, I would say it's good to have tricks in your pocket of things to try. I I would say when it comes to particles, if they're not self-illuminated, if they're not like pixie dust magical particles, then I would start with a backlight, like a big backlight. If you imagine like a dusty, if you're going to shoot something practically and you have some fog in the scene or some dust, and you really want to show that like dusty library look, a really strong backlight from the back corner of the library aiming at the lens will pick up all that dust and dirt and stuff. So if that's kind of the vibe I'm getting from this question, but if not, ignore me. But I would experiment with some backlighting off to the side, really bright, just to like outline every little particle and piece of dust, if that is something. In fact, with the dust that we have, we got to do another video with the dust. I feel like we made all those videos and then now this awesome Alembic dust stuff is just sitting there. But if you're a Plus member, we have this Alembic dust pack and I use it all the time, where you get that exact look when you need those just like little micro floaty particle, dusty library, Westworld kind of like dusty skeleton look. I don't know. It's hard to
skeleton.
What?
I don't know where the skeleton came from.
It's the Westworld thing, right?
I like it. Okay.
Got the Westworld titles.
Man. Okay.
I don't know how this brain works.
I could shake my pillow off in the camera and we would see it in real life.
Pillow dust. I mean, look, I call it skeleton dust. Chad calls us pillow dust. We all have our dust, we have our dust in the closet.
Yeah.
All right.
Angel dust. Whatever you're into.
Anyway, try backlight. Let's get to some more questions. Thank you for the questions so much, guys. Let's get to a few more and then we'll jump into cinema. We'll do some more practical lighting. And I know Chad's got a really cool scene file to show you guys. Yeah, Sean's asking the right question. Thanks for joining, Sean. Good to see you, buddy. Let's see here. We got some specific ones about specific renderers. And I think it's important just to remind everybody that, Chad already said it, these third-party renderers use the same techniques to do what they do. Now, they call it different things, and the brightness on the lighting is different in all of the renderers, and it's important to know those details. But what's important to know is what we're talking about today are the fundamentals of how light works, how it bounces, and how it tells a story in your 3D render. Those things are cross-platform. Those things work in physical render. Those things work with a camera and a light in your studio. So the more that you try to learn those techniques that just work no matter what, the less it really matters what renderer you use, other than the technicals of like, where do you get a softbox? How do you dial up the settings? How to do volumetrics? That's obviously important. But when it comes to something like this, like outdoor lighting scenes in Redshift, to use the physical sun, sky, and HDRI or both, I think whatever the answer is really going to go across the board, which is I mostly use HDRIs as my general lighting, and then use area lights and other practical lights to dial up and really give the scene some shape. I have had some good use with the physical sun and sky, and many renderers have that kind of type of thing where they have a sky color and then an actual sun with a shadow. What I would say is if you want that hard shadow look, like it's overhead sun, at midday or something like that, I would recommend using the either a physical sun sky setup or an HDRI and then a parallel light or a point light or something like an infinite light with a hard shadow turned on. So I would just say, like, no matter what renderer you use, that's a pretty good setup. Any other notes for that one, Chad?
No, I pretty much do the same thing. I try to see, like, okay, what time of day are we talking about here? If I can find, if one of our sky HDRIs that we have, the Ultimate Skies, works, I try to use that. And if it doesn't work, then I do what you said. Infinite light, and then HDRI for the sky, and then beard dust. Beard dust is real, dude. Anyway, and it shows up on the sweatshirt a lot. But yeah, I would do the same approach.
Awesome. All right, we're scrolling through here. We got some more questions. Here's an interesting one. Effectatron asks, do you guys ever make any concepts practically, physically in the real world before making it in 3D? I feel like I did this a lot more when rendering was more expensive. And by expensive, I mean slow. It was actually the fastest way that I learned how good lighting worked was in the real world. And even with how fast the new renderers are, I think you can learn a lot even with your iPhone, and take a cool thing off your shelf or a little vinyl toy, sit it on a table, grab your camera, grab an iPhone, zoom in if possible. If you got the 2x lens, like we talked about lenses last week, pick a lens that's practical for studio type of stuff, zoom in a little bit, and then grab maybe an old phone actually, or some sort of small light source, an iPad, make it white and darken all the lights in the room and move it around. And you'll see very, very quickly what light does in different places. You can do the same thing in your third-party render if you have a fast enough machine. Set it all up, pick one softbox, and pick one area light, and move it around your object and find the different shapes you can make. I think it's a hugely helpful thing to see it practically and to see what one light does in different places, and then learn how to combine two and then three. And that's how you'll find some more of these details. Chad, you ever dial stuff up physically, practically like that anymore?
Not in a long time. Back in the day, we did a yogurt commercial, and in the commercial, we needed cherries to fall into yogurt and chocolate little, shavings to fall into yogurt. So in our little shooting stage that we had at DK, I think it was on, I forget which floor it was on, but we bought a bunch of yogurt and we shot a bunch of practical cherries and chocolate falling into this yogurt, just so we could see for reference, like, what does it look like? What should we worry about? What should our 3D look like when we recreate this? How does it move? How does the light penetrate into the yogurt? All that sort of thing. So it's really, really useful if you're doing something like that and you need to shoot a reference so that you can recreate it in 3D. Don't be afraid to, even if it's just with your phone, if you're trying to make something look real, a lot of the times I think people just go right to Google and looking for reference. But you have a great camera. Chances are you have a great camera like right here in your pocket, and you can shoot your own reference and really play around with it.
Yep. Agreed. All right, we got a few more questions here, and then we'll transition into some cinema stuff. Maybe even talk about some how to bring some of these practical lighting techniques into cinema. We got a somewhat lighting related one here from Damien. Says seeing a lot of renders using the bloom post effect, often from Octane. I think a lot of the renders have that as well. What do you guys think about such effects? I'll go real quick. I enjoy having those settings dialed up pretty subtly, but I do enjoy that look. I think it can be overdone. I think it's one of those things like anything, like when record scratching was invented, it was everywhere. It was too much.
Depth of field.
Yeah. Another good example. Depth of field with like a Canon 5D, like way too much. And then we dial it back. So I think you could be subtle with it, but I enjoy those effects. I think they're pretty, when done well, I think it's a good algorithm. I think they have pretty good, settings in there. So I would dial it back. I think the defaults are actually pretty decent and subtle. Just turning on the post effects. They don't overdo it, which is nice. But I enjoy it. I think it gives it a little bit of that randomness, a little bit of that blooming, letting light wrap around things and bleed a little bit. I think it helps add to that realism quite a lot. And then, of course, the downside is it's baked in. We used to fake all this stuff in After Effects and compositing and glows and overlays and light leaks and lens flares and all the little tricks that we've had over the years to fake this stuff. But I'm enjoying it built right in. What do you think, Chad?
Yeah, I think when it's done tastefully, it's totally fine. I do think you have to be careful if you're baking it into your render and the client or whoever you're making it for is like, hey, listen, I like it, but you know, what's with all this glow? and then you might have to re-render, which would be tricky. But I think when it's done tastefully, it's totally fine, and it can actually. The way I like to use it is to fake atmosphere, because that's really what blooming is. It's light being scattered into water or dust or whatever is the atmosphere in the room. So it can be kind of a cheap way of like getting a little bit of that atmospheric look without having to pay for it in the render. So it can be beneficial. I used to just be like this, like total like, dude, in post, don't, what are you doing? Like, stop putting it in your render. And then I sort of like realized, like, well, I'm working in aces a lot. I'm not comping as much as I used to. I'm not like trying to sweeten everything as much in the comp, because everything's looking so good out of the renderer these days that I think if you can do it and it makes sense, then go for it. But I mean, yeah, if you can separate it out, somebody was just mentioning separate it out, that's obviously the best way to do it. But yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think when it's overused, like when depth of field became easy or cheap to achieve, everybody was like, shallow, shallow, shallow all the time. And I think what we're seeing is a little bit of that when that kind of became the thing in Octane, and now Redshift has it and Arnold has it. I think you'll see it sort of start to slow down a little bit and get a little bit more natural. But yeah, with like everything that's like a new thing, I think it's just your instinct is just, oh, that new thing, I want to try it. But yeah, tasteful. Just always be tasteful.
Keep it tasteful. Keep it tasteful. Hey, look at this, a Twitch comment. We see you out there, Twitch commenters. Thank you guys for watching from Twitch and Facebook as well. We see those come through. That's really cool. This thing allows us to stream out to all you guys. Thank you for joining. Eduarda, I'm gonna mess this up. Eduardo? That's not right. Ed, hope you're doing well.
Yeah, there you go.
Got a question. Got a question. Can you give us advice about composition, any book or website? So I'd just refer you back to our last live show. Chad pulled up an excellent website called Film. What was that film website you had?
Frame Grab.
Frame Grab. So I would start there. Check out last week's or 2 weeks ago's live stream all about cameras. We talk a little bit about composition and about studying filmmaking. Even if you're not going to make films or even pull out a practical camera ever in your career, learn how film and commercials and photography and studio photography and learn the techniques that have been used for hundreds of years, over 100 years now. That has helped me and many other people learn what composition is. Get a book about filmmaking, learn about the close-up and the wide shot and the over-the-shoulder shot, and why choose different camera angles, why choose different. Yep, rule of thirds.
Golden ratio.
All that stuff. Golden ratio. These are perfect things to go look up and learn from. And so there's really not a tip or a technique. I think there are maybe 2 tips to bring out of how to start to make a beautiful composition that doesn't look like everything else. One is, don't center everything. Just a good rule of thumb. Unless you're going for a very specific look, try not to just like center everything. Now, that is also a trend right now. We have these animated GIF type things and white frames with something beautiful in the middle. That's okay to center. But when you're trying
That's kind of my favorite.
That is kind of my favorite too. Now you got to know when to break it, right? However, learn if you're trying to expand your compositional, like language, try to force yourself to crop your subject that you're trying to frame in some corner. Just say, like, I'm not going to show the whole thing in this scene. I'm going to crop in. I'm going to only show what's important. I'm going to make it mysterious by only showing half of the face or something like that. So that's all I would say to start, is to take the beautiful model that you're trying to show off or do something with and force yourself to not show all of it. How can you tell a story by showing a part of a model or looking up at it from a weird angle or down or all that stuff? But also check out 2 weeks ago's live show as well.
Yeah, give things room to breathe. I think that's a thing that I like to do, is like, I like to give some room to the stuff in my shots to breathe. And also another tip that that I learned in terms of like cinematography is if you have a character, I'm going to move myself to the side here, right? If you have a character sitting on this side of the frame and let's say they're looking this way, that's not super interesting, right? Because there's just no room there. We don't know where they're looking. We don't know what's happening. But all of a sudden, if I'm looking up into this space where there's actual space in the frame, it's more interesting. So if you have a character or something that's looking in a direction, give room on that side that they're looking to breathe. A little tip.
I like that. I like that. All right. Oh, we got all these great examples of overdoing it, like synthesizers in the 80s. That's good.
I like synthesizers from the 80s, so that's okay.
There was that period, like, you know, I'm a big Rush fan, but you hit those 80s Rush albums, you're like, shit, they discovered the synthesizer. You know, it's like, and then you know what they did? They dialed it in, overdid it for 2 records, and then they dialed it in. And this happened over and over again. You know what I mean?
It'll correct itself.
It just correct itself. Just correct. It's okay.
Give it time. Give it time.
Film grab. Thank you, Rachel. Appreciate you, Rachel, for
Rachel's hanging out.
Throwing up some links here. Rachel helped us get the word out about the show and set all this stuff up. Appreciate you. She's also got the band hammer. Okay. So, you know, watch it out there.
She's itching to use it too.
Effectatron says Ashthorpe's a great example of composition and framing. I think he has very cinematic work. I think that's a great place to start. Ash is a great artist. Go check him out. He is cinematic and knows the rules of film and uses it to his advantage. That's a great person to go look and check out their art. Awesome stuff. Let's see here. All right. I think we're winding down on the questions. So why don't we jump into Cinema 4D, and I'm going to keep an eye out just for a couple more questions here. But Chad, why don't you get something ready in Cinema? We'll try to approach some of these questions that we had even in Cinema, and I know you have some stuff to show. And let's see here. In the meantime, I'll just double check for other questions. Rachel has, watch out. Rachel has the power. Thank you, Rachel. Depeche Mode. See, Depeche Mode, you know, when you're all synthesizers, you just got to go all in. Depeche Mode's, I think they stood the test of time. That doesn't sound dated to me. That sounds like the future still.
For
amazing
sure.
stuff. Kenny Rogers.
Who said Kenny Rogers? That's amazing.
That's good. That's good.
Kenny needs to do a synth album. I think that's what we've learned.
Well, now that Daft Punk broke up, I mean, I think somebody needs to take their place. I can't think of many more people than Kenny Rogers to really step up the game.
There's room there for sure.
All right, let me answer this one quick question here before we jump into Cinema and let Chad drive. As a GSG Plus member, thank you, Benny, by the way. As a GSG Plus member and new to Cinema 4D, where to start to learn more deep stuff than the fundamentals, but more than the guided path? A few things. Rachel, I'm going to ask for your help on this one. We just put out a guide to beginners that are using Cinema 4D. And this is for Greyscalegorilla Plus members who are ready to like learn as much as they can about Cinema 4D. We have a ton of getting started stuff, obviously, at Greyscalegorilla Plus. And we built a guide exactly for this question, which is, where do I start? And then once I know the basics, where do I go next? And this guide is a great place to start, because something on this guide, after you watch our intro to Cinema 4D, and our guide to Cinema 4D, which dives into some of the newer tools. Once you're familiar with that stuff, a lot of people are asking, where do I go next? So first of all, hopefully Rachel's got this link together. If not, just go to our website, go to our articles or our blog section, look for one of the most recent blog posts we put out, all about the beginner's guide to Greyscalegorilla Plus. Tons of awesome links. Thank you, Rachel, for linking that. It's right here in, I'll just click it too, so you guys could see it down the road on a recording. Go here and check this out. find something in that list that speaks to you and go down that rabbit hole. The last thing I'll say about this is no matter where you are in your career, there's always going to be parts of the software, parts of the types of renderer that you want to make that will pull you in a different direction. So what I would say is once you understand the really basic fundamentals of Cinema 4D and you followed along on some of our training, start to listen to what you want to learn next, because 3D is huge. You can go be an expert modeler. You could go and just study lighting. You can just go and study just liquid simulations. You can go and be a part of this 3D world almost however you want to. But think about how you want to use these tools and what your outcome is, because that's gonna steer how you learn your next stuff. So if these things are interesting, how to use cameras and lighting and materials to create something beautiful, this is interesting to you, start to look into studio lighting, start to watch some of the training that we have about studio lighting. We have this great one, Nick V made one all about this pair of headphones. He shows you, is that one in Octane?
Yeah. I
so,
think so.
Nick V, excellent trainer. It's got some good stuff. We have a new one coming from him very soon, by the way. He shows you how to light some headphones and uses a lot of these techniques we've talked about today. If you are using Octane, even if you're not using Octane, you'll learn a lot about how to light like a studio lighter in that one as well. But that should get you started there. Rachel, thank you for linking to that. And for those of you who are in Plus, we know that so many of you are not beginners. You're actually joining because we have Redshift and other third-party render training and all of our plugins and all that stuff. We're actually building more of these guides just for you guys. If you're an Octane user, we're going to have a similar guide that's like guide to what to learn next in Octane. So stay tuned for that stuff. And we're going to do it for Arnold, Redshift, Octane, and some other stuff we have planned. So stay tuned. Awesome. Thank you so much, Ben. Appreciate that. GSG is the best for learning cool tricks, features you wouldn't think of. That's why we're here. All right, let's go. Let's jump into Cinema 4D. Chad, are you ready, buddy?
Yep.
All right,
I'm ready.
We're gonna throw it your way. Let's zoom into this thing. I'm gonna get rid of the logo so it's not covering anything up. Goodbye, logo, for now. Okay, here we are. Chad, where should we get started when it comes to lighting techniques and this beautiful car model here?
Yeah, so I figured a car is probably a good thing to try to light up, because I feel like it kind of trips people up, and it can be overwhelming. It can be a little daunting. But I'm going to light this car with just 4 lights, and maybe even less, depending on what I want to do with it. And we're going to kind of dissect this a little bit and then talk a little bit about mood and things like that. So if we kind of look through our camera here, you can see I've got my camera set up already. I've got a fairly long lens on here. I think I'm rocking like a 100mm lens. Got the car on a little bit of a platform because I just think it looks cooler to have it in that platform. And I've got some lights already kind of set up here, and I'm just going to hit go. I'm in Octane, but of course, a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about can be done anywhere. And I'm just going to start turning these lights on one by one. So if I turn this first light on, which is just this backlight that's just shining onto the cyc wall, you can see it's already looking good, because it's like, wow, it has a direction. My eye's pulling to the center of the frame. It's silhouetted. People are drawn to contrast, so it immediately has a vibe to it, which I really dig. If I turn on the next one, you're going to see this is more of like a front light to kind of like light the path. That's this light right here. It's a very skinny kind of area light sitting in between the car and the camera, with the cameras like back here somewhere. And this light can come down to maybe focus that light a little bit further onto the ground to really make the eye go to the center of the frame. But I'm actually going to put it back up because I just kind of want this to be a little bit of a fill. And if we keep going down the line, if I turn on this next light, this light here is impossible to do this in real life. So in real life, if you wanted to get a reflection going on the front of this car like this, you would have to hang a very long piece of fabric behind the camera and light that up, and it would have to be pretty large. And that would be hard to do because the camera, as you can see, this light is in between the camera and the car. And if I go into the light settings here and I actually turn it on, camera visibility, you're going to notice if I refresh the live viewer here, it's going to show up in my shot. Actually, it's not right now because I think I turned it off. Let's see. I think I turned the opacity off. I don't know why it's not showing up, but yeah, it's sitting right there in between the camera and our car, and that's no good. So having 3D lights are awesome because you can basically break reality. But okay, so we've got 3 lights in here, and it's looking pretty damn good. But right now, I think it needs maybe just one more. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on the rim light, which is this light that happens to be just sitting above the car. Let me dial it in here, right here. This light right here is kind of just sitting above the car, and it's also extremely long. And this is typical of what you would light on set for a car. So if we just turn off all the lights but that one, this is pretty typical on set. You would have a very large piece of fabric with light shining into it, and it would be hanging over the car. And it's a pain in the ass to like move it around. But of course, in 3D, we have we can put it anywhere we want. So I'm going to actually just turn off all these lights, and we're just going to build this up from scratch. So I'm just going to hide these all in the viewport so we don't see them anymore. And we're going to light it up one by one. And I'm not going to go through maybe all the lights, but we'll just do a little bit of it here. So I'll grab an Octane area light. We're going to push that up into the air. I'm going to rotate it. I have a nifty little rotation script that I wrote that's just going to rotate my light 90 degrees. There we go. You can see if you just throw an area light over this car and just obviously dial the exposure way down, it already looks pretty good. That's because this is how they do it in catalogs for real. So you're used to kind of seeing it like this. Now, we don't want to see it in our shot. In fact, if I wanted to have a really kind of interesting look, I might pull it into the shot. Who knows? Maybe we'll throw some area light maps on here to get some textures going or whatever. But for right now, I'll kind of leave it as is. Now, we can come in here into the visibility and turn off the camera visibility so we don't see it in the shot. And I'm sure every DP and gaffer in real life would love to be able to do that. We can do that. It's 3D. It's magic. So I don't like it sitting that high off the car. I want to create a little bit more of a silhouette. So I'm going to pull that light back just a little bit. I'm just trying to show off the curve of this Corvette because it's such a cool model. I just want to kind of feel it right there. I might even make it a little bit further. And now I think, that light is pretty harsh. I want to come into that light setting and maybe dial it down, maybe drop it down to a power of 5. That's feeling pretty good. Now, what else can we do? Let's just go ahead and right away, I'm going to throw that light that we had up on our cyc wall, and I'm just holding down control and dragging that light. Let's make it pretty small, something like this. Make sure it's pretty close to our wall, and we'll raise that one up to maybe 12, something like that. And what this is going to do is it's going to give us that vignetting that we want. We want the eye to kind of draw to the center of the frame and sort of follow the line of the car. That's what makes it interesting. That's what makes it look cool. And I might rotate this light just a little bit towards that wall. Not a lot though. And again, if you want to widen out that vignette, you just pull that light off the wall, and it's just going to widen out that vignette a little bit.
Yeah,
so that's looking
early on. We had a question about flat lighting, and you showed exactly how not to get flat lighting. It's using lights that produce a gradient across your screen rather than a light like you had when it was large. It was just it made the whole background just one color. But just by shrinking that light and moving it in the right way, you have this little gradient, that vignette you're mentioning. That is how you can light something still from the front, but without having it feel so flat. So just want to point that out from the question earlier.
Yeah, you know what? Interrupt me anytime because I can't see. Obviously, I've just got my screen share going on. So yeah, just stop me if there's a question or something. Okay, so we've got a pretty decent look going for sort of the rim light of the car and our background. And now we want to dial in the reflection that's going to maybe happen on this front fender. And really what you want to do is you want to show off the curves of the car. So let's just go ahead and duplicate this light out. And immediately it doesn't look bad. It doesn't look really like what I want yet, but it doesn't look too bad. And I am going to rotate this light, and we're going to rotate this light a little bit, not much. If I can grab the right handle, that would be helpful. All right, I can't
Just use those scripts, Chad.
Yeah, I don't want to go 90 degrees though. I guess I could.
You start there.
That's fine. Thanks, Nick, for reminding me of the scripts that I made to save myself from having to do exactly that.
Hey, and while we're talking about the scripts real quick, because I've already seen people asking, you guys are asking about those camera scripts from last live show, and those are actually up in Chad's interface. I can see them up there. And we mentioned we were going to look for a way to share those lens scripts with you guys, and it looks like we're pretty close to figuring that out. So stay tuned. Plus members, there'll be a real easy way to get those camera scripts. And now that we see these rotate scripts, Chad, it sounds like we may have to bug you for these too. But anyway,
all right, no problem.
Just wanted to mention that. I've been seeing it in the comments from last week and this week, but we're looking at easier ways to get you guys these smaller little scripts and ideas that just speed up your workflow. So okay, I'll shut up.
Yeah.
Keep
all
going,
good, man. Thanks for reminding me. All right, so we now kind of have our front light going, and I know a lot of people's instinct, I think, is to try to keep the lights sort of like in a manageable size, to where they think, well, this is about as big as the light should be. Well, we're in 3D, we can break rules, we can go crazy. So if we want a reflection that's going to stretch across this entire car, we can just like widen out that light like crazy and maybe bring it down so it's a little skinnier. And now we have this beautiful light that's cutting down the fenders and showing off the curves of the car. And of course, if you raise that light up, it's going to crawl across the surface of the car and get a little bit higher. Now, for me, like I try to just like show off what the car has to offer here in terms of the curve and the shapes and whatnot. So I might put a light here, and then what I'll do is I'll duplicate that light again. And this one, I want to show off maybe the top of this fender. This one's going to be trickier because that fender is a little bit weird. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball it here. And this is where having a good IPR real-time view is very, very helpful. So I'm just rotating that light again a little bit. And sometimes I'll isolate. So I'll just turn off all the lights but the one I'm working on. And by the way, I prefer simple shots like this. Like this is even interesting to me, because it's a little bit different. It's a little bit more moody. I like moody. So, okay, this is what I was trying to do. I was trying to get that light to just cut down this roof line right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's go ahead and turn on all the other lights. We don't want to throw up. That's not a good thing to do. Okay, so now we are ready for our footlight, which I'm just kind of like making that term up. It's not really a real term, but I'm going to duplicate this light out here. And we are going to shrink this guy way, way, way down. Oops. Let me just grab that handle, shrink it way down and make it pretty long and skinny like that. And then we're just going to rotate it. Something like, well, let's just use the scripts here. Boom, boom. I think I got to go one more. There we go.
Ooh, and it locks it to 90. Ooh, hello.
I know, because I find myself like having to just rotate area lights 90 degrees like all the time. So it's just like, I just made a script that would just do it, because why redo things all the time?
All the time. All right,
so
now you got to let us know in the chat if you want these scripts too, guys. Go ahead.
Yeah, they're definitely they're definitely useful. At least I find them to be useful. But okay, so now what I'm doing right now is just trying to get rid of this line. This line is created by this light right here shining on our cyc wall, right? And it's very close to the cyc wall. So in fact, like let's just make sure it's not going to show up at all in that cyc wall. I'm going to go down to my geo here, and under background, I'm going to find my cyc wall. I have an Octane tag on there, and I believe that I'm just looking for the number on it. And because what I'm going to do is actually try to make it not show up. This is where, I'm not super versed in light linking in this program, but you have to use these light pass masks, which is a little bit weird. I prefer how Arnold and Redshift handles it, but whatever. Okay, so I have 2 turned off here, so I think I need to make that light number 2. So let's just jump back up there to that light, and there we go. And I'm going to make this light pass 2, and there we go. So that turned it off. Good. So now we don't have to worry about that light showing up. And I'm going to do the same for this other light that I created that's up here. I'm going to give that one a light of 2. So it doesn't show up either. Okay, good. All right, so now I can bring this kind of like light that I brought in at the last second there, bring it up in intensity just to kind of make that ground look a little bit more interesting. Cool, so this is getting better for me. I'm digging this. I could go as far as like taking this light and like not having it show up in the cyc wall, but whatever, it's fine for this. And I try to keep it as simple as possible and just kind of do stuff like this. And then I'm usually like, honestly, I'm like moving these lights so much until I find what I like. And then I just like try to force myself not to touch them anymore, which is really hard sometimes. But yeah, so that's kind of how I approach it. But since we're here and we have a little time, I'm going to like strike some of this down and show you a more moody approach, which is kind of fun. So I'll move this light into the shot actually. And actually,
sorry to interrupt too.
Yeah, go for it, man.
I'm just trying to connect the dots from some of the previous questions we got earlier in the stream. You know, different compositing ideas, different ways to light, and really that whole idea that you don't have to show everything. You know, some of those moodier shots you had where it was kind of backlit or just rim lit or part of the car was visible, in a lot of ways gives a sense of emotion that a fully lit rendered model will never give you. So as always, you know, it's up to what you're trying to portray to the audience. Is this mysterious? Is it sexy? You know, is it high? Is it high end? Is it or is it, you know, or is it inexpensive and budget and affordable? These words that you choose are going to dictate how it's lit, how what materials you choose, what camera angles you choose. There's a language for all of this stuff. And so for something like a expensive car here, you know, we're trying to make it a little bit more you know, like I said last week or 2 weeks ago, like a piece of jewelry, like something beautiful and attainable that is like in a glass case. And so sometimes it's really that backlit look or some of these other looks Chad's going for here that make it look more mysterious than something that's just like fully flat lit that looks like it's in a JC Penney flyer. You know, like think about where it's going to end up, and I think that'll help. I see you're grabbing the area light maps volume 2, Chad. Why don't you tell everybody about volume 2 here? Because I think we're a week early, but I like where you're going with this.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't going to say it, but since you said it,
I mean, if you're going to tease something that's not out yet, you better tell them what's happening.
Yeah. So if you're a Plus member, I'll just say that you're going to be very happy very soon. We have some incredible stuff coming, and this is just a really small little taste of it.
Yeah, if you guys have used area light maps in the past, it's one of our most used HDRI collections. It works awesome with HDRI Link. There's basically a sequel coming out in the very near future for Plus members. It'll just show up in your library, but it'll be the area light maps too, which have some cool ones. Click on it real quick, Chad, because I've been digging these like those little like kind of offset squares and stuff like that. Some of these are really cool.
Yeah, this one is great. It's basically like a bunch of like Kino flows that just look like hanging light fixtures that are really cool. This one's awesome too. It's kind of like a more random assortment of like hanging fluorescent fixtures. We're calling these arrays. So these are arrays of lights that sit on a texture that go onto your area light to really kind of give it a really interesting vibe. In fact, we should, like, with these on, of course, we got to turn on some bloom right?
Oh, dude, with the light visible with a little bloomy bloom action.
Let me see if it'll actually kick in here.
Hey, what's up, Andy? Good to see you. Thanks for joining, man.
All right, I think I need to take the power up a little bit more.
Michael, thank you. I appreciate it. We're excited to get this stuff out. Should be out soon. We'll be announcing it relatively soon. And when we do, Plus members, you'll just have this in your library. It'll just show up. That's why we built all this stuff, so that when it's ready, it's just instantly available for you guys. Travis asks how you get the Bloom and Arnold. That is actually it's an Outback Steakhouse special. At the Bloom and Arnold.
Oh, that's amazing, dude.
Wait, no, that's Bloom and Onion. Do they have the Bloom stuff in Arnold, Chad?
Yeah, it's a post effect. It's you have to have the newer version, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm actually gonna let's just make this look even cooler. Let's turn off the cyc wall. Have a car floating out there.
The car in space here. Yeah, this looks good with a little bloomy action.
We got some, yeah, you need some stage lights?
Look at that.
We got you. Maybe there's a fight going on. It's like a boxing ring. Who knows?
Ding ding.
Some whoa, dude, this bloom just like went bonkers on my quasars.
You just got your quasars just got bloomed. Wow.
Beautiful. Down a little bit. Yeah, let's do like 5 on that. Actually, 2 might be good. Yeah, and then we have quasar banks, different kinds. Like these are super bright, so you gotta like bring them down a little bit.
Aziz light. Aziz light. That's my favorite.
This one's dope too.
Thank you, Automatic. That's my favorite movie ever. Appreciate that one. Oh, those are dope.
Yeah, these are cool.
I haven't used those yet.
Yeah, these are neat.
Well, good. Hey, Chad, I appreciate you sneaking a little plus demo in here.
I might be fired after this, guys, so I apologize.
These aren't out till at least next week. I'm thinking it's next week, guys. Did I break protocol by picking a week? But yeah, we have Brandon. You asked nicely, so I'll tell you. Look for an announcement next week. And area light maps too, and we have a ton of other stuff, including maybe something else. Chad will show you here, maybe at the end. Stick around. We'll call a little teaser. It is car based. We'll show you something cool here at the end. We have a huge. It's probably our biggest addition for Plus members coming out next week. So stay tuned. It's going to be awesome. But we'll get back to some lighting stuff here, which I guess this is. But
yeah.
Go back to those crisscrossy quasars.
All right.
Can you rename it to crisscrossy quasars? Oh my God! Look at this.
I gotta turn them way down, dude. They're like, actually, let's also like make them kind of blue. Oh.
Yeah. So this is actually something you said earlier too. You know, like one well-placed light source can go a long way. Now, in this case, I know this one light source is kind of faking 12 light sources or whatever, but this is kind of what we were saying earlier, is like less lights, the better, especially if you're new to lighting. I think one of the biggest things that kind of overcomplicates lighting is just adding too many lights. So start simple, start with something like this, you know, a beautiful softbox texture on a light. That's why we created these area light maps, by the way, just so it's, you know, one light to move around. You get some different patterns. Oh, that one looks cool.
Yeah, this was one of my favorites for sure.
But to get back to, you know, the fundamentals of lighting, which is, you know, why we build all this stuff to help you guys, to start simple, to make it easy to grab a light and say, you know, how can we do this with one light? How can we do this with maybe 2 lights? And dude, this is looking the brightness is a little now when you're doing that, would the keep power like surface brightness? I know there's a checkbox in Octane that actually dials up and down the scale, but that has to do with scale, not the brightness, right?
Yeah, that's the scale. But yeah, I mean, quasars are fairly bright, so yeah, these lights have a lot of dynamic range in them, so you just gotta, you know, be careful. They are bright. They will blind you.
Yeah, those are cool.
but yeah, man, these are dope. These like arrays I think are super useful and a lot of fun to play with. This one's like perfect for cars. This one here, if you want to make it look like, you know, you're in the Batman.
You're in the Batman Butler cave.
Yeah, the Butler cave. Then you just like take this light and you just like duplicate it a few times, you know. And let's take that guy. Let's duplicate it this way and take all 4 of those lights and move them over like that. Now you're in. Now you're in Bruce Wayne's secret, whatever.
Secret cement palace.
And then you can take this one is actually a bank of fluorescence. Who knows? Mix it up. Have fun. That's what they're there for.
This is beautiful. Let's we got a few questions here, I think, as we start to wrap up. Chad, thank you for the lighting demo. I love watching you light, Chad. It's so much fun.
Thanks.
You do such great stuff. Let's also, maybe we'll sneak a peek at the new material collection, maybe, while we're answering a couple questions. I mean, I figured you already showed them like area light maps too. We might as well, since there's a beautiful car on the screen, maybe show them something else. Let me answer this question though too, because Walter's asking about, could it be a good idea to talk about aces in the next live? And Walter, also what's coming out very soon is a new video from Chad. I just saw it on the calendar. It's coming out relatively soon, about aces in Octane and how much easier it is to set up. So I know that video is coming out. It's on the launch list. So stay tuned for that one. That'll be on YouTube. That'll be a public video, easy to watch. So stay tuned for that one. We getting details. So let's answer that question, Chad. So how do you, we all saw this wide angle shot of the car, but how do you light these close-ups? Because that's something I never know how to approach. Like, look at that shot. Look at how beautiful that one little corner is sticking out there in the rim. How do you approach shooting these close-ups to show off the shape and you know, the beauty of a studio shot like this?
I do it in a similar way. I don't really I don't know. Like, I feel like I want to like figure out what the goal is of the shot. Like, if we're doing like a macro shot or like a close up of this fender, of this bumper here, then it's important for the viewer to understand the shape of it and get an idea of what that's like. So usually I'll set up the shot like this, and then I'll take that first light and try to like figure out like, okay, how far back do I need to go to get that position the way I want? How long does that light need to be to kind of give me that effect? And honestly, like, this light can be like way, way, way back here and it'll look fine. And then we'll just throw in a nice like fill light to kind of kick off this rim and give us something there. So then I'll just, you know, take this light, duplicate it out, rotate it like that, bring the scale down somewhere in there, probably move it pretty close, and then just kind of walk it up and down till I find that spot. And it's going to be very bright at first, but we're just going to knock it down somewhere like in there.
Oh, that's cool.
Then I'll do one more that will basically be a rim light. So if I take this guy, rotate it back, rotate that light this far, and make it very large, something like that. We'll turn off that light's visibility in the camera. And then I just sort of turn lights on and off to check out what they're doing for me and see and try to isolate, like, if a light is not contributing a lot to the look that I have in mind, then I get rid of it. Lighting is about culling out lights as much as it is about turning them on and figuring out what works and what doesn't work. But yeah, in fact, I think I might change up this shot a little bit, and because I think it's probably going to be cooler in a shot like that, where you can see that light that I have over here, like doing some pretty cool stuff on the front. Let's brighten that up a little bit. There, which is actually a good transition to talk about some new stuff that we're just going to touch on it barely. I don't think we want to get too deep.
No, they call this a teaser. They call this a teaser in the biz. You know, the stay tuned. This is the cliffhanger before the end of the you know, like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or something. You got to really draw it out.
Right.
Commercial break. It's a commercial break within a commercial break here. Is that where we're going? No, Chad, I think that's actually a great angle for what you're about to show. So yeah, I think we'll do a light touch here and show a little behind the scenes for the friends that decided to show up on the live show. And hey, as we're showing off some new stuff too, if you have a friend that is, you know, learning Cinema 4D, the industry right now is just of course a buzz with learning Cinema 4D and all the craziness going on. If your friend or colleague or whatever is learning 3D, let them know we exist. Let them know we have all this stuff here on YouTube, here ready to help. And we have our, you know, intro to Cinema 4D training, absolutely free. They can come get started. Help us get the word out about what we're up to. And we also see a couple questions here that we'll get to right at the end. So, Chad, why don't you show them what the heck you're doing here with this?
I mean, I mean, why don't you say it?
Oh,
So
are you anxious?
Are
you anxious, Chad?
I am now. I don't want to I don't know what you are comfortable talking about. So I'll let you do it.
Look, we'll just make it really simple, guys. We built Plus to deliver, to deliver a ton of stuff into your library. So no matter if you use Arnold, Octane, Redshift, if you haven't noticed, we've been adding a ton of new HDRIs, aerial light maps we talked about earlier today. We have some new training coming up that's actually around this automotive lighting from our buddy Nick V. But one of the things that I'm really excited about is this brand new material collection called Car Paints. And Chad and Sean and the team really spent a ton of time making what I think is the best car paint material shaders out there available, period. These things are gorgeous. Chad and Sean and everybody worked so hard to get every little metal flake. They placed it by hand, folks. No, that's not true. That's not true. They wrote some incredible algorithms to make beautiful car paint that is realistic. It looks good from far away. And if you've tried to do car paint in the past, you know that it's one of the most difficult materials to get exactly right. And Chad and Sean put out this amazing pack. It'll be in everyone's library next week. It's called Car Paints, very simply, and there's some beautiful stuff. You could see some examples here on the screen. Maybe, Chad, you could drag some of your favorites into this model here. And maybe just tell us your favorite part about some of the details that you guys have added. I'll say one more thing and let you talk, Chad, which is, you know, Chad's been lighting beautiful and making beautiful materials for so long. He knows what makes for great looking car paints. And he and the team brought all of this knowledge and just put them right into these materials so you could drag and drop them and you get perfect car paint. So Chad, just tell us like your favorite part, and we'll dive deeper in other videos that are coming up soon about this, but just tell us your favorite part about these car paints and why they differ from just like a glossy, you know, material.
These things are, and I'm not just blowing smoke, these are the best car paints I've ever used for Cinema 4D by far. And the reason is because the painstakingly, you know, crafted color selections and the way that Sean and I put these together. And then really the biggest differentiating factor is our custom flake system for Redshift and Octane. And it's completely procedural. You don't have to UV your car. You don't have to worry about any of that. So you can see I'm not like I don't want to show off too much because the stuff that we're going to be releasing when these come out is going to explain it a lot better than a crappy live stream with bad resolution can really show. But yeah, I'm getting really close here, and this is flake detail. This is like serious like metallic flakes in the paint, looking completely realistic, and it's all editable. You can change it. You can have it, you know, go for some otherworldly looks if you want. You can really kind of go nuts. But yeah, I'm not ashamed. It's the best car paints for Cinema 4D.
They're really good, guys. I've been testing them and playing with them, and I can't stop tracking these things on everything. There's actually a quick question, and let's hold off on a lot of questions, but because I think we have a ton of videos coming out next week that'll show a lot of details, how to dial in these details for your specific render if you want that much control. But there is a question about the color shift. There are actually materials built right into this pack that do that color shift look that is very popular, built right in. And it's no, the only thing you need to know how to do is drag and drop, and the materials do the rest. There's a good one. Might need a little bit more light for that one, but those like iridescent color shift materials, we got a few that look really, really good right from this pack. I mean, I know, Chad, I know you want to show off all the little thumbnails down there, but why don't you open up your IPR window a little bit?
Yeah, sorry.
show me that car, baby.
I get a little in my own head, I guess. Yeah, let's make this a little bit bigger. I forget too that I'm like operating on like a smaller resolution,
smaller screen.
Yeah.
Are the car paint textures procedural?
Yes.
Yes. Yep. Scalable, easily scalable. Don't have to worry about.
I mean, obviously the camo ones are not, like the
Right.
camouflage wraps that we have are not, but the car paint, the flakes are. And Sean, who is the mastermind behind a lot of these materials, he's in the chat. So if he's answering, he could answer a lot of these questions as well.
Yeah, Sean, shout out to Sean as well. Amazing stuff. You guys killed it with this. Ooh, give me that yellow. All right.
Gotta have a Bumblebee yellow, right? Come on, man. It's a sports car. Let's do it.
Awesome. Well, there you go. Thank you, Chad, for the little demo there of what's coming up. This is just not even all of what we're dropping next week inside of Plus. Stay tuned. We got all new, bunch of new stuff, including an update for the library that I'm really excited to get to you guys. Got a feature a lot of you guys have been asking about, so stay tuned for that. And somebody else was asking about other parts of the car and adding materials. Frankly, I think with this car paint pack and the Everyday Material Collection, which is obviously all included with Plus memberships, it's right here installed in your library. The Everyday Material Collection has a lot of that other stuff. So great rubbers and metals.
This whole thing was
fabrics.
This whole thing was actually textured with Tech Products and EMC.
Oh, and of course,
this entire scene
and Tech Products, which came out last month, I think. If you guys haven't checked out Tech Products, it's just a little example of where we're headed with Plus. It's why we're so excited that so many of you have joined in the last couple months. I wanted to welcome you guys. Thank you guys again for joining. It's exactly why we built this stuff, so that our team can build these amazing materials, lighting, scripts now we got coming to you. We got to figure that out. But that's the goal now with what we're up to. We not only do we want to share our tips on how we light and make beautiful renders, but also give you guys the tools to speed this whole thing up. So, I like that green. That might be one of my favorites.
This is definitely one of my favorites.
Ooh, hello. All right, I'll just let you like make a pretty looking card. That's fine with me. Let's take the last few minutes here and answer a couple more questions, then we'll take off. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you guys coming by on a Thursday. Stay tuned for more of these live shows. Get a question ready. We're going to do a lightning round. If you have any last minute questions about lighting, about Plus, about, I don't know, this car scene, whatever's on your mind, happy to answer a few more questions, and then we'll take off. And then stay tuned next week. We have a whole series of announcements coming out. We're really excited to show you guys. Let's see here. Jacob, hey guys, how can I have those folders in the object manager? Chad, do you want to tell them about these folders?
Yeah. These folders are nothing special. They're not like a plugin or anything like that. Inside of Cinema 4D, every null can have a different icon. So if I just create a null here and I grab that null and I go to the base tab in the object in the attribute panel and I twirl down icon settings, I can actually hit load preset and scroll down to the folder closed, choose that, and then I can tell it to use the display color. And then under the display color, I tell it to use layer. So if this is in a layer, so if you look here, I have a bunch of layers. If we add this to, let's say, the geo layer, the folder turns green.
Cool.
And I like to set up my scene with some base nulls that look like folders. And it's just a nice way of organizing my scene. I've been doing this for a while, and I have a default scene that has these already set up, and all the layers kind of mirror what's happening with the organization. But yeah, you can do this yourself. But we've thought about making a script, but we haven't really had time.
The default scene, I think, is something underutilized, and maybe it's just because, you know, it's hard to see how everyone else works for the last year, you know?
Right.
But the default scene saves my butt so many times. Things that I use almost in every render, rather than set it up and bring it into every scene, you know, set up these default scenes and build a default scene for yourself. And highly recommended for you guys. If you haven't done that, just think of the things you use in almost every render and make sure you set up a default scene. A few more questions coming by. Actually, here it is. Mo is asking about Plus student pricing. Absolutely. In fact, we just announced a change. Maybe it was like a month or two ago for our student pricing. So now anyone who is an active student at basically any level of education, we have a non-commercial license for Greyscalegorilla Plus that is 50% off. So if you're learning and you're have an educational either ID, anything that you could show us that just shows that you're learning this stuff, you get 50% off. And it is a non-commercial license, but it means you could start to watch all of our training, start to use all of our tools, and really use the same tools that professionals use to make beautiful renders like this. And it's 50% off. So just go to the site. You just type in educational discount, Greyscalegorilla. You should pop up right on the page. 50% off for a non-commercial license for a year. So you basically, you get a year for $199, I think it is, something like that. It's really affordable. We wanted to make this affordable for you guys, for students to just come learn and, like I said, have all the same tools. No restrictions on tools or anything else. It's identical. It's just for non-commercial use. So please go check that out. Jacqueline, thank you so much with the link from Jacqueline. Jacqueline also is here at Greyscalegorilla. She's amazing. Give it up for Jacqueline.
Jacqueline's in the house.
We got to give you the band hammer too, Jacqueline. We got to give Jacqueline the band hammer. Rachel's got a good one. Andy's here. Oh, Andy, good point. Thank you, Andy. Andy not only has some training in Greyscalegorilla Plus, great teacher. If you haven't seen Andy's work, great artist. He's also bringing up something important. There is training for setting up these icons inside a Plus. So whenever this feature was new, which I think is maybe a few years old now, right, Andy? There's training to show you a little bit more detail about how to set up those icons. Awesome. Thank you, Andy. Good to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. All right. A couple more questions here and we'll wrap it up. Let's see here. Here's a good one. We may have a couple of these. Mario's, hopefully I said that right. Marios says, hey guys, I'm a product photographer and like to ask if you have specific tutorial for products and packages like beer, wine, bottle, etc. Oh, of course. We got that beer can that you did. Yep. That's a great one. Marios, if you're a Plus member, we have a piece of training where Chad breaks down a beautiful beer can model. He shows you how to light it, how to set it up, and I think you show how to like wrap the label and everything as well, right? You actually set up the whole scene. Am I remembering that right, Chad?
Yeah, the whole like I think it's been a while, but yeah, the materials, the lighting, how I posted stuff for clients, like all that, the entire kind of workflow.
Yeah. So what I'd recommend is go check out Plus. If you're already a member, go look at the headphone product rendering from our buddy Nick V. Go check out the upcoming automotive car rendering, which is very product heavy, also by Nick. Check out the beer can from Chad. And I feel like there's maybe one more that's really studio heavy that's inside of Plus, but there's a lot of product rendering stuff, training for you guys if you're a Plus member. Thank you guys for the questions. Travis, I joined Plus just for the training. No regrets. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. You gotta download these materials, man. You're not using physical, are you, Travis? We need a not intervention, maybe. Andy's the Jacqueline. That's funny. Yes, Rachel. Rachel said it perfect. Thank you, Rachel. Awesome. Good, Sean. Yeah, hearts to Sean for sure. Awesome. Scribble. Let's do a couple more questions. Feeling good? Chad's just like making me smile.
Yeah, I'm in a zone now. I got to stop, or else I'm just going to keep going.
Dude, just keep making stuff, man. Scribble's asking, been watching GSG for years, noticed some old tutorials that were free and no longer featured on YouTube. Is there a reason? Scribble, the short answer is we're actually remastering a lot of videos right now that are coming back to Greyscalegorilla. So what you're probably mentioning were not videos that were on YouTube that disappeared. It's probably more likely that these are Vimeo videos from way back that when we shifted to our new website and everything else, we just did not include any Vimeo videos for many reasons. Vimeo playback issues are a part of that. But if you've been looking at our YouTube channel lately, you've maybe seeing some classics coming back. So we're actually remastering some older videos that are still 100% watchable and usable in Cinema 4D. And we're bringing those back to YouTube. So make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. And when we drop those, you'll be seeing some classics. In fact, we just dropped one today. Rachel just put it out. Thank you, Rachel. And we also put out another one earlier this week from Chad. Might be Chad's like first tutorial with Greyscalegorilla, where he did this awesome animated GIF looping fuzzy ball thing in Cinema 4D. So check that out. And you'll be seeing more videos soon in the classics collection coming out. And unlike Disney, we'll just leave them out, and you can just watch your classics anytime. We won't, pull them after Christmas. All right,
back into the vault.
Back in the. Can you imagine? That'd be amazing. Hey, everybody! Don't forget to watch this tutorial. It's going back in the vault for another.
Oh, I hated when they did that.
Another 3 years.
It was like, why do they do that? I just want to watch Sword in the Stone. Come on.
The cherries. Oh, man, the cherries. See, that's a tough one. Some of those really early tutorials are mostly follow alongable, but enough changes have happened in like the MoGraph menu and how MoGraph works, especially fields and the way that effectors work, that it is a little bit tough to follow along with some of those really old tutorials from early Greyscalegorilla. So maybe we need to like remaster them. I gotta do I dress up like it's the late 2000s?
I think 20s would be funny.
It's like I'm just in a zoot suit and I'm
no, you're in a flapper dress. I feel like that would be funnier.
Look, guys, I'll do it for you if you want. We'll just do really remaster the classics. What do you think, Rachel? We got to get wardrobe on this one. All right,
that'll be fun.
Gonna regret this recording when Disney buys Greyscalegorilla. Got to really watch out. Yes, Disney's going to own us all here really soon, so we better play nice with the mousey. Play nice. Adam, thank you guys. Chad, thank you, buddy.
Yeah, dude.
Thank you guys for all the questions. Thank you for joining us. Stay tuned. We're going to try to do this again in another couple weeks. So if you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe. You hit the notifications. What that'll do is let you know not only when new videos are dropping. We have all these new videos coming out next week, all about the new stuff in Plus. Cannot wait to show you guys that. But also a week after that, we'll have another live show. So if you want to make sure you don't miss this, do the notifications thing. That way you'll get notified. That's what notifications are. Other than that, thank you guys for all the questions. Let me throw up the, I said throw up now too, Chad.
I know,
it's
dude.
contagious. Throw up the chat here so we could all say goodbye. Thank you guys for all the good questions. Thank you for joining us, and for the Plus members as well. I know we reached out to you guys specifically and had you guys join us in the show. We appreciate you guys. We built Plus exactly for you guys to help speed all this stuff up and to have access to all these tools. So we're going to look into these scripts and hopefully we'll have an announcement, probably not with next week's drop, but maybe soon after we'll figure out a date to get you guys those lens scripts, maybe these rotation scripts too, but we'll get that to you guys as well. Happy hour. Absolutely. Happy hour. Cheers. Chad, I have a warm beer now, but that's okay. I'm gonna save that one for after.
Water.
That's just straight vodka, right?
Yep.
Keep rendering, folks. Happy rendering, guys. We love all your questions. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And what else? We will see you guys real soon. Stay tuned next week for some big announcements. And if not, we'll see you next week and or 2 weeks from now on another live show. Thank you, team, for helping get this going. I know many of you are in the chat. So thank you, Greyscalegorilla team, for getting all this rocking and rolling. And we will see you guys soon. All right. One of these days, I'll get the guitar out, Travis. I'll play us off the live stream, but not today. Not today, my friend. Today, it's all about singing. Here we go.
Oh, no, please.
Just kidding. Okay.
Get me out of here.
Bye, everybody. Thank you, Chad.
You guys.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you in another show really soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.